have the extended version today of the Symphony Number 9, second movement with Mr. Furtwängler. Yes, there's lots happening here at the coalface. So, yeah, and look, a word to let people know that we'll have to wind up these Corona sessions in probably next Monday, actually. Yeah, I think so, because thereon I will be going on. I'll be walking for a few days and then doing other things, and then the summer season starts, and that's it. So I suppose it was always designed to be a Corona stopgap anyhow. It was some way, bizarre way, convoluted way to document the lockdown period, and we're sort of having a lot more freedom now, which is good. So it's possibly met its purpose, but we'll keep going until next Monday, until the day I disappear. And well, when I'm around, I can do it. But we may have a session here and there. And of course, we'll stick with our Fridays where possible, our late Friday night session. And just letting you know that I am vk3sl. These are test missions, tone tests on 160 in the narrowband FM mode. And streaming service as well. I think it's best to define these as being a premium streaming service, and the secondary service is the on-air aspect. So that's the wrap with all the details of what's happening here. Now let me find what's on the non-program, because I really haven't thought about much. I'm supposed to be on holidays, but it's crazy. It just gets... people are sick of being told about how busy we are. It's self-imposed busyness, but some mitters development and other things, it's certainly a different pace. It's all good. All right, so let's find something. Now, there's something interesting that's turned up this week. Quite rare. A rare recording. It's been put up by Mr. Jonathan Holmes. It's a track called March On and Song of the Blue Shirts. I think it's 2 tracks, actually. It's Al Collins and the Savoy Band. This is one of the less heard of bands at the Savoy Hotel in London. It's a private record. It's a Columbia private disc. And I think it was recorded in the early 1930s. Mr. Collins didn't make many records. I think he made a couple of acoustics, few for Decca later on. But this is a rarity. So, let's indulge. Have a listen to March On and Song of the Blue Shirts. Al Collins, and I'm vk3sl. Testing.
Many have long felt the need of tapping the fund of latent loyalty in human hearts by founding an order of independent patriots to foster faith in the future of our destiny and to encourage self-sacrifice in the service of liberty and order. The result has been the starting of the Blue Shirts and the launching of their fighting song, March On. What was most wanted was to inspire followers and to focus their emotions with a tune which could be recognized everywhere, sung at meetings, and even hummed over at home or at work. The motto of the movement is Fear God, Fear Naught, and it is hoped that March On will lend itself to many a crusade in the cause of these ideals.
The night of slothful ease is past, the days of fear are gone at last, and England's voice is raised in a song that we shout aloud as we march along. March on, march strong, honor and liberty call. Sons of the free, our duty be to fight for freedom for all. Tyrants and foes beware, our swords are in the air. So shoulders together, forward forever, to triumph we march four square. Let all those scream their hymns of hate and work to undermine the state. Our heritage is builded high on faith and love. They will not die. March on, march strong, honor and liberty call. Sons of the free, our duty be to fight for freedom for all. Tyrants and foes beware, our swords are in the air. So shoulders together, forward forever, to triumph we march four square.
And the views expressed on that record certainly don't reflect my views, but it's an interesting document. In fact, it's very historical and slightly hysterical in today's climate. But I will read out some background to that recording you've just heard. It says, this is a rather unusual dance band item. Al Collins, who is a violinist, he led a band at the Savoy Hotel for a large part of the 30s. On record, his output is minuscule. One acoustic session in 1923, 2 decasides in 36, although he broadcast regularly in the 1930s. Here they play the Song of the Blue Shirts, a march written by Oliver Locker Lamson, which he adapted from a 1929 British film called High Treason. Locker Lamson used the song as the emblem of his party, the Sentinels of Empire, commonly known as the Blue Shirts, a far right-wing organisation designed to fight Bolshevism. A copy of this disc was reportedly sent to Mr. Mussolini. It's unlikely Mr. Collins held such extreme views, so his band must have been hired to play the dance arrangement for this privately issued record. Using matrices as a guide, it was recorded in late December 1930. So, that was Al Collins and the Savoy Band with a very rare recording put up by Mr. Jonathan Holmes, so it's sort of it's helpful to flesh that one out a little bit. So there we have it, something quite historical to kick off today. Now, busy times. I can't stay in this room, so I am going to defer to the vaults. In fact, what I do each year for my work colleagues is find some OTR, something that's a bit topical, a bit local interest or something that people can relate to, and pop it on a CD and wrap it up and make it into a Christmassy thing. Now, I've been pondering what to do this year about that, and I was going through the archives and I found some Aspro shows. So these are always good because they sort of profile Mr. and Mrs. Normal, the normal Australians who mow their lawns and do the edges and press their trousers. Yes, these are the normal people who we all aspire to be like. And so I think we'll just we'll cut to the chase, have a listen to one of these episodes, and I'll assess it. I'll see if it has Christmas potential. So without any further ado, this is vk3sl. These are test missions, of course, on 160 in the narrowband FM mode and streaming online under a dedicated YouTube channel. vk3sl is the name of the channel. All right, let's have a listen to the Aspro Show.
It's certain, it's safe. The Aspro Show. This is Aspro's daytime program broadcast throughout the nation on a nationwide network in the search for Aspro's Mr. and Mrs. Australia. Good morning, Australia. This is John Hansbury with your Aspro Show. This morning we present a special edition of our search for Aspro's Mr. and Mrs. Australia because, as the entire Commonwealth knows, next Saturday night is the grand final in our search for the married couple most typical of this great land of ours. Who will the winning couple be? Will it be the couple representing South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia, or Queensland? Later on this morning, I will give you further details about the couples who are to compete. So keep listening, and we will refresh your memory with the 5 couples you will hear on Saturday night. You know, summertime is a grand time, but it does bring some discomforts at times. Heat nervousness and exhaustion, headaches, overheating and pain of sunburn, sore throat, sudden colds. These need not worry you if you take Aspro. Aspro soothes away the trouble. It causes no unpleasant after effects and does not harm heart or stomach. Enjoy summer with Aspro.
Aspro is more effective. Aspro is safe and pure. A-S-P-R-O. Aspro.
Thousands of people have heeded that well-spoken advice, and we know Aspro has earned many valuable friends in this novel radio program. This morning we intend to present some highlights that have made the program during the last 8 months. As you know, the early Aspro shows were compared by Paul Jacklin before his departure to South Africa on leave of absence. My initiation into the programs was after the introductory series. I joined the Ron Beck organization and became compere of the Aspro show on our second visit to Melbourne. Up to my entrance in the feature, many prizes had been won in the Aspro show and many entertaining features had been produced. But this morning, to give our program just the right kind of introduction, we would like to feature again a musical highlight I introduced myself in Melbourne. It was the daytime program that was broadcast on the air on the 21st of September, the same week as the Saturday night Victorian final was heard. And in that Thursday morning program, you heard me say, we have much pleasure in bringing you a most pleasant musical highlight in this morning's Aspro show. We have a young man whose voice is known throughout Australia in radio and stage appearances, and also by some excellent recordings he's made. With just the right kind of voice for a medley from Annie Get Your Gun, we have much pleasure in bringing you Albie Franks.
My defenses are down. She's broken my resistance, and I don't know where I am. I went into the fight like a lion, but I came out like a lamb. My defenses are down. She's got me where she wants me, and I can't escape no how. I should speak to my heart when it weakens, but my heart won't listen now. They say that falling in love is wonderful. It's wonderful, so they say. And with the moon up above, it's wonderful, wonderful in every way, so they say. The girl that I marry will have to be as soft and as pink as a nursery, a girl to call my own, will wear satins and laces and smell of cologne. Her nails will be polished and in her hair she'll wear a gardenia, and I'll be there instead of flitting. I'll be sitting next to her and she'll purr like a kitten. A doll I can carry, the girl that I marry must be. But I must confess that I like it, being miserable is going to be fun.
The first 4 weeks of the Aspro Show were broadcast from Sydney. It was then that we journeyed to Melbourne for the first time for 4 weeks, and you heard the morning programs presented from the Assembly Hall. In one of these programs, these morning shows, a Melbourne housewife proved that she was just as much on the ball as our Sydney ladies by winning for herself a beautiful mantle model radio. It was Mrs. Ferguson of Ascot Vale. Hello, Mrs. Ferguson. You'll remember it. And our friends may remember the jackpot test in which Mrs. Ferguson won her mantle model radio on the 8th of June. We will now refresh your memory with it.
Well, we have a very easy test this morning. A voice, a film star's voice. It's really very simple, and if it's recognized, we are presenting a triple-throat, wide-range mantle model radio to the contestant with the correct answer. If more than one lady gets it correct, we'll have a super quick quiz to determine the outright winner. Well, now you have to listen to the voice. You're only going to hear it once, so listen.
I'm carefully describing the script as, and I quote, completely self-possessed and elegantly detached. His manners are beautiful, his speech is eloquent, and his tongue can be sharp, end quote.
There it is, there's the voice. Now, would you each come to the microphone and tell us who you think it is? Mrs. Rook, who would you say?
Ray Milland?
Ray Milland, Mrs. Rook would say. It took a long time to think of that. Who would you say, Mrs. Wilson?
Oh, well, I don't know. I haven't any idea.
You have no idea?
No.
Well, you'll have a guess.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
You don't guess. What about you, Mrs. Williams?
I don't know, but perhaps it might be Lionel Barrymore.
Lionel Barrymore. He was, yeah. Mrs. Warwick.
I think it's French tone.
You think it's French tone. Mrs. Arnold would think that voice.
I'm afraid I haven't any idea.
Oh, I'm sorry. What about you, Mrs. Ferguson?
I think it's James Stewart.
Do you think it's James Stewart? What about you, Mrs. Linton?
I think it's Bing Crosby.
You think it's Bing Crosby? And what about you, Mrs. Luder?
Would only be a guess, but Frankie Sinatra?
Frankie Sinatra. No, now just hang on. One person got the correct name. And that was the person who was going to win a triple-throat wide-range mantle model radio, who said that voice belonged to Jimmy Stewart. And that person was Mrs. Ferguson. Well, how do you feel about that, Mrs. Ferguson?
Well, I don't know what to say, really.
Jimmy Stewart, a heartthrob of yours?
No, not actually.
Well, he ought to be after this.
Yes, I think I'll make him so after this.
Make him your pin-up boy?
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Ferguson.
Ah, yes, there were some magnificent prizes won throughout Australia in the Aspro Show. Listeners sitting at home were able to participate. And in the morning feature, the thank you feature, it was responsible for sending £5 notes into many Australian homes. Take, for example, this happy few minutes in Sydney when Mrs. DeCarl managed to build up the family bank balance by a crisp £5 note. This morning's question was forwarded by Mrs. J. Gibson of 16 March Street, Orange, New South Wales. Well, Mrs. Gibson, I've got my fingers crossed. You do the same. You'll soon be richer by £5, or at least a pair of nylons. Now, who has the question? It's Mrs. DeCarl coming up to the microphone now. You have the question there. I'll take it from you, Mrs. DeCarl. I have a copy of it right here. And this is it. Hang on to your, I was going to say socks, but I mean those in your hand, of course. If one day Prince Charles is King of England, what will he be? King Charles the what?
The third.
King Charles the Third is right. You're right, and you win £5, Mrs. DeCarl. I'm sorry, Mrs. Gibson, but you do get a lovely box of nylon stockings. From Melbourne, the Aspro Show journeyed on to Adelaide. But before we go on with our Adelaide story, I'd like to tell you of a vague condition that sometimes comes to many people, but particularly to busy housewives like yourselves. It is best described as a weary, headachy depression. Often there is nervousness, too. The swift answer is Aspro tablets with a cup of tea. Aspro, because it acts without after effects, clears away headache and nervousness in a soothing way, enabling you to relax, and that is the first thing needed. The cup of tea has a follow-up action providing a mild stimulation, which, with headache and nervousness gone, helps to set you on the bright side again. Aspro and a cup of tea for those headachy housework blues. A-S-P-R-O, Aspro. Well, now back to continue with our excerpts from the really great highlights that made the Aspro Show during the last 8 months. After 4 weeks in Sydney and 4 weeks in Melbourne, the Aspro Show toured to Adelaide, and it was in that capital of South Australia that the first finalist couple was selected. The winners of the South Australian final were Mr. and Mrs. Toyne of Unley, South Australia. You will hear them both speaking later on this morning, but for now, we'd like you to hear Paul Jacklin interviewing Mrs. Toyne in her very first appearance in the Aspro Show. It was on Thursday, July the 6th.
To the microphone comes
Mrs. Toyne.
Mrs. Toyne of
Unley.
How many children, Mrs. Toyne?
I have 2 boys.
A bit louder, Mrs. Toyne. What are their names?
The eldest is George, Leonard George Charles, actually, but we couldn't have 2 Leonards in the family, so we call him George.
Your husband's Leonard, is it?
Yes, that's correct.
When are your children's birthdays?
George is on August the 3rd, and John, the baby, is also on August the 3rd.
Oh. At a year's interval?
Oh, no, 2 years interval.
I see. Thank you, Mrs. Toyne. What does your husband do?
My husband is a sales manager for Falcon
This
Engineering.
is a test transmission from
Actually, there are 3 of them in partnership.
vk3sl.
One is in Melbourne, one is in Sydney, and Len is over here in
I see.
Adelaide.
Well, what else does your husband do?
He plays professional football.
Oh, does he?
Oh, yes.
Where, Mrs.
At
Toyne?
present, he is coaching and also captain of Sturt. While in Melbourne, he was captain and coach of Sandringham. He played with Melbourne and also Geelong. He had his first league game with Geelong when 14 years of age.
When 14?
Yes.
Do you watch him play?
Oh, yes, I like to watch him play.
Well, let's find out about you, Mrs. Toyne. What's your favorite colour, singer, popular singer?
Well, my popular singer first is Bing. I don't think you can go past him. Also, I like Caruso, Gili.
And your favorite colour?
My favorite colour is blue, although I wear a lot of black. But I do like blue.
Well, Mrs. Toyne, it's been a very interesting interview indeed. Thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Toyne did very well for herself because she was selected to participate with her husband on the Saturday night heat, which they eventually won. Then, in the Adelaide final, they went on to be selected as Aspro's Mr. and Mrs. South Australia. From Adelaide, the Aspro Show toured all the way to Perth. In Perth, before huge audiences, the program was given a magnificent reception. One of the biggest highlights in Perth was in a morning show broadcast on the 20th of July. It was in the jackpot test when 4 ladies correctly answered Paul Jacklin's test, and they were called upon to engage in a very quick elimination quiz. It was really exciting, and we feel that you would like to hear this most entertaining moment once again.
You will hear a sound effect. I made the sound effect especially for you this morning. It's simple, very, very simple. It's something you've heard many, many times, and I'm sure if you listen carefully, you'll work out what it is. Remember, there's a washing machine for the correct answer, and if more than one lady answered correctly, then a quick quiz will determine the outright winner. Now, have a listen to this. Well, would you like to hear it just once more? And could you be very quiet in the audience so they can hear this carefully? Remember, ladies, there's a washing machine as a prize. Have a second listen to it. Thank you. Now, let's see who has it right. Would you come to the microphone, please? Mrs. McKenna, what do you say that sound effect is?
It sounds like a tree falling, the cracking of a tree falling.
Thank you, Mrs. McKenna. What do you say it is, Mrs. Mutchie?
ringing on the telephone.
Ringing on a telephone. Thank you. What do you say it is, Mrs. Mills?
Lighting a match.
Lighting a match. What do you say it is, Mrs. Jessup?
Sounds like he's chopping wood, but...
Sounds like me chopping wood. Never, Mrs. Jessup, never. Mrs. Hillman, what do you say it is?
I think it's a match striking.
You think it's a match striking. What do you think it is, Mrs. Duncan?
Forgive me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Duncan.
I think it's something dropping raindrops.
Raindrops. Drop, drop, little raindrops. Thank you, Mrs. Duncan. What do you say it is, Mrs. Goodwin?
Match striking.
A match striking. What do you say it is, Mrs. Jane?
That's what I think too.
That's what you think too, a match striking. With all those to say it's a match striking, come up to the microphone because you're right. Right, now there are four of you standing here, a bevy of beauty in front of the microphone. We're going to ask them a quiz question. The first one to answer it gets the washing machine. Right. A bit closer, please, Mrs. Mears. All right, all round, all poised. Now, don't forget you've got to talk. Mrs. Mears, Mrs. Hillman, Mrs. Goodwin, and Mrs. James. See if you can answer this question. If you purchased 2, 1 and 3 packets of Aspro, how many Aspros would you have?
54.
54, Mrs. Mears! Mrs. Mears! Mrs. Mears wins the washing machine. Don't hang on to the microphone. Hang on to me, Mrs. Mears. Hang on to me. Well played. Mrs. Mears can't say a word. Oh, Mrs. Mears. She's resting her beautiful face on my shoulder.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, goodness. Anything else, Mrs. Mears?
Oh, Sir Heavens.
Well, congratulations, Mrs. Mears.
And then we must leave Mrs. Mears. She really was in a state of collapse, wasn't she, ladies? Clinging grimly to Paul Jacklin, who was just as excited as she was, and everybody in the auditorium was joining with her in her happiness for her success. Well, Mrs. Mears of North Fremantle was well advised on Aspro, as everyone in Australia is, because the less you suffer minor illnesses, the more liable you are to be without Aspro in the home, on some occasion when you need it urgently. The best way to be prepared is to buy a giant 4-shilling family-size bottle of Aspro. Play safe. A-S-P-R-O, Aspro. Wherever the Aspro show was presented, it enjoyed grand audiences. I took over the program when Paul Jacklin visited South Africa, and as I mentioned earlier, my first shows were broadcast from Melbourne. After we determined Mr. and Mrs. Rod Lapthorne as the winners of the Victorian final, we came on to Sydney, and there, during the presentation of a special morning Aspro show, I had much pleasure in introducing that grand Australian singer of really fine songs, Alan Code. Alan really did a great job, and we're happy to be able to represent him singing the same song this morning.
The beggar man and the mighty king are only different in name, for they are treated just the same by fate. Today a smile, tomorrow tears, whenever sure what's in store. So learn your lesson before too late. So be as I. Hold your head up high. Somewhere there's a bluebird of happiness. You will find greater peace of mind, knowing there's a bluebird of happiness. And when he sings to you, though you're deep in blue, you will see a ray of light creep through. And so remember this, life is no abyss. Somewhere there's a bluebird of happiness.
Yes, that was a grand musical highlight, of which the special morning Aspro shows had many. But now I'd like to talk about what you may expect to hear on Saturday night when the grand final in Aspro's search for Mr. and Mrs. Australia is presented. You think you can select which couple will be nominated by our independent judging panel? Do you? We will refresh your memories on the couples. Now, here is an excerpt taken on the night Mr. and Mrs. Rod Lapthorne were nominated as Mr. and Mrs. Victoria. You may remember my saying, what has brought you both the greatest satisfaction in your lives?
I think the fact that we've come through the first 4 years of our married lives successfully. It was not easy building our own home. Margaret had a long spell in hospital, but we've been able to come through everything and we're facing the future quite confidently and happily.
Thank you, Mr. Lapthorne. Now, Mr. Eddie Balmer, our chairman of the judging panel, is here with 2 questions he'd like to ask you.
Mr. Lapthorne, I can imagine with your experience of flying, still the greatest thrill you would get probably from a flying point of view would be to fly to England as Mr. and Mrs. Australia for Aspro. Now, say you touch down there and you're approached by an intending migrant, where would you advise him to settle in Australia?
Well, in the first place, Australia is such a tremendous continent with offering such a wide variety of climatic conditions that I would want to know something about his future, whether he wanted to go into pastoral work or industrial work. If I didn't know anything, I'd suggest Victoria or Tasmania because the climate there is more nearly the English climate. But if he were going for pastoral work, well then New South Wales probably, or if he wanted the tropics up in Queensland. Victoria, I think, for industrial occupations, and South Australia for a nice, staid, easy life.
Seems they do well everywhere. Mrs. Lapthorne, I think John Hansbury mentioned you two are the youngest pair here tonight, but think of people even younger, teenagers today in Australia and youngsters. What do you think the future holds for them?
I think they've got a wonderful future ahead of them if they're prepared to settle down and work. I think the hardest years for most young people are over, the years immediately following the war, but they will all have to settle down and think a bit about things. Too many of them are a little feather-headed.
I see. All right, Mrs. Lapthorne, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Balmer. Now, of all the famous internationally known Australians, and there are very many, you'll agree, I feel, who do you think has done the most to place Australia to the fore in world recognition or world affairs?
Well, my vote would go for Sir John Monash, who led the Australian manhood to nationhood in the First World War.
And you have 15 seconds to say something you want to say very much. What is it? Oh, what is it?
I can't speak.
You can't think? You can't think. All right, you agree that Australia is a great sports country. Why?
Oh, because of the wide open spaces and the sunshine and the great following that Australia gives to all its sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Lapthorne. Wound out very nicely. Yes, the Lapthornes were a grand couple and will do Victoria justice with their participation on Saturday night, we feel. Moving further west, we come to South Australia. And we know that every South Australian on Saturday night will be cheering for Mr. and Mrs. Len Toyne. We would like to give you a refresher of the Toynes.
And now, you might know this couple coming up the microphone now. They're our last couple entering the auditorium, Mr. and Mrs. Toyne. The last couple in the semi-finals tonight. Mrs. Toyne's a tall, slim, attractive young lady with a most pleasing smile and lovely manner.
This is a test transmission from vk3sl.
Handsome. Mr. and Mrs. Toyne. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Toyne won last week's heat of our South Australian series of the Aspro Show, and you'll remember them by the request. Should they win, they asked that a donation be made to the Crippled Children's Home of South Australia. Well, 4 minutes to talk. Your full name, Mr. and Mrs. Toyne?
Leonard Harris Toyne.
Mrs. Audrey Margaret Winifred Toyne.
Your address?
27 Frederick Street, Unley.
How long have you been married, Mr. Toyne?
6 years on the 28th of October.
What's your occupation, sir?
Sales manager for Falcon Engineering Company.
Any children?
2 children, 2 boys.
Ages?
One is almost 2 and the other almost 4.
Where were you born, sir?
In Terang in Victoria.
Where were you born, madam?
Twickenham in England.
What time did you come back to Australia? When did you come to Australia?
When I was 4 months old.
4 months old. How did you serve during the war, Mr. Toyne?
I served with an independent unit in the early part of the war and with a light aid detachment in the latter stages.
You, Mr. Toyne?
I was with the VADs.
What do you two want most out of life?
Well, health and a desire to be a good citizen to the community and a desire to help other people along the road throughout our life.
I'd like happiness, health, and the best we can do for our children, and help others as much as we possibly can.
Now, we want you both to talk. You have 1 minute to tell us why you consider you two are a typical Australian married couple. Go.
Well, in the light, we have lived on the land for quite some time. We've had farming experience. We have also lived in the city, and we served throughout the last combat, 39-45, and we are genuinely typical Australian people, we think.
We are very happy. We love our home. We love our children. We're very keen, interested in sport, and we do our best for others around us. And, well, I think we're just typical Australians, and I think everybody else is the same way as we are.
Well, look. Yes, and we agree with you, too. Len and Audrey Toyne are a fine couple, and they will do credit to their state. Now we travel right across to Western Australia, and the couple representing that grand state are Mr. and Mrs. Keith Howard of South Como. Here is a brief excerpt from the broadcast made the night the Howards appeared. So let's re-meet them.
Joan Kathleen Howard,
Keith Desmond Howard.
Your address?
110 Lockhart Street, South Como.
How long have you been married?
Well, we've been married 3 years, but I have been married before. My first husband was a pilot and was killed. Now I was left with 2 children, and my husband adopted them, and we have another little girl now.
That's 3 children?
Yes, 3 children.
Your occupation, sir?
I'm the secretary of a small company of merchants in this city.
Mm-hmm. Where were you born?
In Sydney, New South Wales.
In Perth.
You were born in Perth. How did you serve during the war, sir?
5 years in the AIF, approximately 3 years overseas.
Mm-hmm. What do you two want most out of life?
Well, a happy life for our children and widen our outlook.
I look for security for the family, to carve out a niche for ourselves where we can look forward to launching the children happily on their lives and then leaving us to live in peace and contentment afterwards.
Thank you. Now...
Yes, and that's where we leave the Howards for the time being. Well, you've heard Mr. and Mrs. Victoria, Mr. and Mrs. South Australia, and Mr. and Mrs. Western Australia. And now, to get right back home, Mr. and Mrs. Francis Welsh, who will represent New South Wales, a fine couple, and with an excellent chance of winning the grand final. It is not so long ago since the Welshes won their final, but we know you would like to hear them once again. Here they are on the night they won their final. Mr. and Mrs. Welsh! Well, you have heard the appreciation of our audience. You know the judge's decision. You are Mr. and Mrs. New South Wales. Have you anything to say?
Oh, yes, I feel we mustn't pass this opportunity of thanking the sponsors for their wonderful chance they've given us, and thanking the station that is broadcasting this very interesting quest, and also the good people in the audience, our judges, and you, Mr. Hansbury, Mr. Beck, and all involved. We're highly delighted. It's wonderful.
All right, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Welsh. Then, of course, the couple you heard win the Queensland final last Saturday night, Mr. and Mrs. Leo DeLange of Wynnum Central, Brisbane. Mr. and Mrs. DeLange, like all the other interstate couples, have travelled especially to Sydney to participate in the grand final of the Aspro show on Saturday night. And with the other couples, we wish them well. We know you would appreciate a reflection of their previous appearance, and here they are as they appeared last Saturday night. Now, could you tell me, what do you consider as the basis of a happy married life?
Well, firstly, you must have both happiness and love in the home, and must let the children see nothing but real happiness.
I would like to add that the secret of happiness between man and wife is founded on both trying to help each other in their troubles and little difficulties that crop up from time to time.
And we agree with you entirely, Mr. DeLange. Well, ladies and gentlemen of Australia, we've been proud to have been associated with a program that has lent itself to the making of so many friends. On Saturday night, you'll hear one of the 5 couples representing each state selected as Aspro's Mr. and Mrs. Australia, a couple typical of you, and you. This couple will leave 1 week later on the Qantas BOAC Kangaroo service to England. They will spend a glorious 7 weeks holiday. They will be presented with a standard Vanguard car, and every expense will be met by the Aspro show. We know you join us in wishing each couple well, and by what better way could we do this than to ask you all at home to join in singing, as we did in Sydney when the entire audience burst forth with, "For They Are Jolly Good Fellows." Aspro show this morning, before we leave you, we remind you that the importance of being prompt in the use of Aspro is something everyone knows. It is therefore very annoying when some trouble crops up and you haven't your usual supply of Aspro on hand. The best plan is to get a giant 4-shilling family-size bottle and be sure of having Aspro always in the house. It's an economical way to buy Aspro, too. Remember that Aspro advice. We look forward to meeting you all in the grand final on Saturday night and again next Thursday morning. Till then, this is John Hansbury and all those who have been associated with the Aspro show asking you to remember this well-established fact.
Aspro is more effective. Aspro is safe and pure. A-S-P-R-O. Aspro.
Ah, that Australian drawl. That's an amazing snapshot of the times. The attitudes and the accents, that's what does it for me. I love that sort of ambience. And of course, we heard a representation of Anglo-Saxon Australia. Isn't it interesting? That's the way it was back then. I think about 1950. I was looking through the list there, and I believe they were from about 1950. There's stacks here. We might play a few more. When I first started doing these missions, the late night missions, I played many episodes of the Aspro show, and that was a bit of a continuum. But maybe I should follow on with a few more. This is vk3sl test missions on 160 metres in the narrowband FM mode, and we're testing here and streaming online. So you can go and have a listen on the YouTube stream if you wish to be entertained. Okay, well, we'll continue a bit of an OTR session today. We'll hear another episode of The Shadow. This one is called Spotlight on the Duchess, and it was cast in 1946, yes, 7th of August. 46, it doesn't really matter. Who really cares? Do you need to know that sort of detail? Not really. So let's hear some crazy organ playing. The Hammond organ sets the scene for another Shadow episode.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows.
Once again, we bring you the thrilling adventures of The Shadow, the hard and relentless fight of one man against the forces of evil. These dramatizations are designed to demonstrate forcibly to old and young alike that crime does not pay. The Shadow who aids the forces of law and order is in reality Lamont Cranston, wealthy young man about town. Years ago in the Orient, Cranston learnt a strange and mysterious secret, the hypnotic power to cloud men's minds so they cannot see him. Cranston's friend and companion, the lovely Margot Lane, is the only person who knows to whom the voice of the invisible Shadow belongs. Today's drama, Spotlight on the Duchess. The scene is set in a low-class saloon, filled with the wispy haze of cigarette smoke. On a high stool leaning against the counter is a blousy, peroxided blonde, her heavily lined face streaked with thickly caked makeup.
What is a drunken man like? Or like a drowned man? A fool. A madman. A drink too many makes him a fool. Another maddens him. And the last one drowns him. Give me another drink, barman. I'm coming up for the last time.
Give us some more of that Shakespeare, Millie.
Wait till I oil the old vocal cords.
All right, Millie Burnout. You've played your last scene.
It's the police.
Come along with me, Millie.
What for?
For the murders of Mary Kennedy, Hagan Bales, and Peggy Bell. You couldn't stand to see them steal the spotlight from you, could you, Millie? Even if it was from a lot of tramps in the cheap saloon.
Nobody steals the spotlight from me. Not even you, officer. My drink. Farewell.
What happened? It's Millie.
She's dead.
Oh.
She poisoned herself, just as she poisoned the others. But she did it. She kept the spotlight until the very end.
Did you like the play, Lamont?
Well, you know me, John. I'm usually a fan for any murder play.
And what did you think of it, Margot?
Shall I be candid?
Oh, please do.
Well, even though you are the author and we are friends, John, I'm afraid it's not one of your most brilliant efforts.
You thought it was awful, both of you.
Not exactly. No doubt, John, it has your usual grand dialogue.
But I just can't picture anyone killing people just because they steal the spotlight. A broken-down old actress was fighting the bar loungers and poisoning anyone who tries to get more attention than she does.
Crimes have been committed for far less important reasons than that.
Yes, that's true. I know of a woman who killed her husband just because he sat around the house cracking his knuckles all day.
Oh, that I can understand.
It's got to be a success. I've sunk everything I own in this play.
Oh, you backed it, too.
It's the one show of my career, Lamont. If it fails, well, my future isn't going to be very bright.
Look, old boy, the play just isn't true, is it? Well, it's not believable.
But it is, Lamont. Those characters I've created are real.
Oh, now, look, John, I've been mixed up with murder and crimes and mystery for years. I know what's real when I see it. Well, hang it all, that play of yours just doesn't hold together.
But those characters are people I know. People I've been watching and studying for months.
You mean there is actually a woman like that old actress? And one like the little flirt? And a man like that bar lounger? And a woman like that ex-circus performer?
Exactly, Margot. And the barman is a real-life character, too. They all have counterparts.
That plot you've cooked up reflects real life. If anything as far-fetched as that could really happen, John, I swear I'll eat my hat on the busiest street in town at high noon.
That's a bet. All right, that settles it.
What?
Tomorrow, I'm introducing you to the real-life setting and characters I use for my play. Well, how do you like it?
Well, it looks like the first act curtain on the lower deck.
wait till you meet the barman. Hello there, Mike.
Well, if it isn't Mr. Drake again.
Meet a couple of friends of mine, Mike. Miss Lane, Mr. Cranston.
Reckon you're welcome if you're friends of Mr. Drake. Heard you got a show on that open last night.
Yes, you'll have to come around and see it, Mike. I'll give you a couple of tickets. The Duchess been in yet tonight?
Ah, she'll be around, Mr. Drake. You know, there isn't a tramp in the neighborhood who doesn't get in at least once a day, unless they got both their legs cut off. Then I reckon they get someone to carry them in. What do you have? I don't mind telling you, my liquor will tear a hole in your shirt.
3 beers, Mike.
3 beers it is, Mr. Drake.
Where on earth did these poor souls come from?
Well, they've usually hit rock bottom when they find this neighborhood, Margot.
Ah, that's right, Mr. Drake. Poor devils. I feel sorry for most of them.
Now do you believe my characters are real?
Characters? Perhaps, John. Oh, but that plot.
I always say you don't know how much suffering there is in the world until you get behind a bar. You see, I'm sort of a philosopher, you might say. They all know they're at a dead end.
I suppose most of them live around here.
No, they don't live, miss. Some of them are still breathing, but that's about all. They come in here with butterflies in their stomachs and go out with bats in their brains. Oh, that's the Duchess. Now, there's a real lady for you.
Here she is. Here's the woman I patterned my leading character after.
Oh, my friends. Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Why, where are you going, Duchess? You just got here.
I'm not myself today, Mike. A double-header. Quick, knave. My hands tremble. I see spots before my eyes.
What's that from, Duchess Shakespeare?
No, from hitting the bottle. Just put it on the bar, Mike, my love. I'll sneak up on it.
Come on over here, Margot, Lamont. I've got someone else I want you to meet.
Hello there, Mr. Drake.
Oh, hello, Freddie.
Gee, who are the tops?
Freddie, this is Miss Lane and Mr. Cranston.
Very pleased to know you. Come on, Duchess, give us a power. Yes, recite something to stand.
Oh, will you be quiet, the lot of you? I'm in no mood for the bard tonight.
That doesn't surprise me any.
What's the matter with the Duchess tonight, Freddie? She doesn't seem her usual jubilant self.
She's still mad about Jenny.
Jenny?
What did she do?
Jenny Green, that's my girl, understand? She's a beauty too, isn't she, Mr. Drake?
Oh, yes, she is, Freddie.
Just about my height, nice long yellow hair, big blue eyes, and a figure with all the trimmings. That's Jenny.
She sounds like Ida in your play, John.
She is, Margot.
There isn't anybody like Jenny, lady.
What does the Duchess have against her, Freddie?
Well, yesterday the Duchess was here reciting some of her crackpot poetry when Jenny gets tired of it. Jumps up and puts a coin in the jukebox, which starts up and drowns the Duchess in Tommy Dorsey. The Duchess gets annoyed, see, and nearly cleans up the place with her before I put a stop to it all.
Oh, stealing the spotlight from her, eh, Freddie?
You said it, Mr. Drake, and believe me, Jenny's the one that can do it.
Will she be in tonight?
Yeah, I'm meeting her here. We ain't scared of the Duchess. She can't do just as she likes.
What can't I do, Freddie?
Treat Jenny the way you did.
Just let her show up and
You keep your hands off her, understand?
Who's that man?
I'll show you.
Oh, no, you won't. Take your hands off me.
Lamont. We'd better stop them, John.
Hey, listen, all of you. It's Herbie. What happened, Herbie? It's Jenny. They just found her dead in her room. Somebody killed her, they say.
Killed her? She was murdered?
Yeah. There was a glass with poison in it beside her bed and an empty bottle on the table.
Well, looks like I wasn't the only one had an argument with your girlfriend, Freddie.
Wanted to see me, Commissioner?
Yes, Lamont. Oh, good evening, Margot.
Evening.
How was that you're reading, Commissioner? Play?
Spotlight on Millie. Oh, it's John's play.
Yes. A friend of yours, isn't he?
Well, yes, I have known him for some time.
That's what I thought. I'm working on this murder of Jenny Green.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, we were in the saloon this morning when we heard that the girl had been killed.
And I suppose you've both been to this, Jonathan Drake's play?
Yeah.
You notice how much this Jenny Green is like the girl in the play? The first one to get killed?
Why, yes, Commissioner Weston. Lamont and I both mentioned that last night.
The papers have made a big story of it. Being a real-life version of the play, I mean.
Yes, I know. I've just been talking to John. He says there's been a line at the box office since lunchtime.
There are 3 murders in the play, aren't there? This Jenny Green's the first, or whatever Drake calls in the play. Then the little bar lounger gets killed, and finally the other woman, the ex-circus performer.
Oh, Commissioner, you don't think there's any connection between the real murder and the play?
If there was another murder, Lamont, like in the play, the show would be set for a long run, wouldn't it?
You mean if the other murders in the play actually happened in real life?
Oh, Commissioner, that's ridiculous. I mean, instead of drama holding up a mirror to life, we'd find life following the pattern of the play. That'd be impossible.
Unless the author had a hand in the real-life murders, too.
Commissioner, you don't think John Drake would commit murder? Murders? Just to keep his play running?
Men have killed for a lot less than that, Margot.
Oh, but this is ridiculous, Commissioner. Now, you don't think there's going to be another murder?
You mean the way the little loafer was killed next? In the play?
I'm not going to take any chances. That's why I sent for you.
I believe you're serious.
You bet I am. Now, look. When you two were with your author friend, did you meet anybody or see anybody Drake might have patterned this next victim after?
Well,
of course, darling, Freddie. He's exactly like that awful little man in the play.
Do you know where this Freddie lives?
No, but you could find out from Mike at the saloon.
All right. Want to come along? Because I'm going there.
But, Commissioner, what for?
Following the play, he's the next on the list to be murdered. I've let one murder slip by, but I'm not going to miss on this Freddie. Well, this must be where Freddie lives.
My, what a charming place.
Commissioner, this is a wild goose chase. I've known Drake for years. He couldn't possibly be...
And I've heard that before. Come on, let's go inside.
Oh, my goodness, what a dark, dingy, horrible place to live.
Yes, isn't it? Let's see now what the saloon keeper wrote down.
These half shadows make everything look so frightening.
Freddie's room's on the 3rd door on the left.
Look, his door's opening.
Yes, someone coming out.
It's Freddie.
It is.
You are, Commissioner. I told you, you're all wrong.
Your name, Freddie Blake?
Hello there, Freddie. You remember me?
Yes. I remember you.
Uh-huh. Glad to see you're still all right, Freddie.
Still all right.
There's something wrong with him, Lamont.
What's the matter, Freddie? Are you sick?
No. I'm not sick.
This is a test transmission from vk3sl.
Why, Freddie. Yes, Lamont. It's just the way I thought. Jonathan Drake's just killed off his second character.
Who will be the next victim of the sinister murderer? Keep tuned to this station for the conclusion of tonight's adventure. And now, back to the Shadow. It is next morning, and we find Lamont Cranston and Margot Lane with Commissioner Weston in the dingy atmosphere of Mike's saloon.
I don't know what you're going to prove, Lamont dragging me into the saloon.
Humour him, Commissioner, humour him. After all, we did go to Freddie's with you.
Yes, and you saw what happened, Margot. It's an open and shut case now that your author friend's disappeared.
I tell you, John Drake's not the kind of chap who would kill, nor run away even if he thought he was under suspicion.
He's gone.
Now, look here, Commissioner. I'll admit Jenny was killed and Freddie right after her. Just like the murders in the play, but
there were three.
Exactly, and who's the third? A character Drake thought up. A hard-boiled ex-circus performer. There isn't a character in this saloon who even remotely resembles her.
So that's true, Commissioner.
So your theory's knocked very neatly right smack into a cocked hat.
The one you promised to eat, darling, if Jonathan's plot was true. Ta-da!
Oh, there's the merchant.
Let's go over to the bar, Lamont.
Sit down, darling. We've got box seats right at this table.
Come on over to the bar, boys. Today, drinks from me.
Think of the best. Nothing's too good for the Duchess when the freak's not her,
Any more like your old self tonight, eh, Duchess?
No pain, Mike. No pain at all. Well, everyone, here's to life. The life.
Life, Duchess? I've only got 3 months.
Blanche. Hey, look, it's Blanche Latour. How are you, Blanche? How are you? Back again? Out of jail,
Come
eh?
on over and join me, everyone.
Here, wait a minute. This is my party.
What's the matter, Duchess? You're slipping. Have to buy drinks to get a little attention around here?
You keep quiet, you rotten little shoplifter.
Calm down, Duchess. Aren't you going to buy me a drink, too?
No, I'm going to give you mine right in the face.
Hey, what's going on?
Keep out of this, Margot.
Let you see all the fun.
He threw a drink in my face.
Yes, and here's something to go with it. I'll kill this cheap circus tramp.
Circus?
I've got bigger business with a circus than you ever got in the theater.
The circus?
Yes. Yes, they're hanging by a teeth on the top of the tent till her husband knocked them all out.
Lamont, there she is, Lamont. There's the circus performer.
Yeah, one of the best in the game.
The ex-circus performer, the third victim. That's it, Cranston. That completes the picture.
Darling, I'm so proud of you. You certainly are a wonderful detective.
All right.
The way you showed Commissioner Weston there was no real character, no ex-circus performer like the girl in the play.
Margot, I have a feeling that Blanche Latour could tell us a great deal.
But Commissioner Weston has her place completely surrounded, Lamont. No one can get in to see her now.
I think I can slip through the police cordon, Margot. And I think I'd better pay her a visit as the Shadow before someone else does.
Blanche Latour.
Who's that?
The voice of the Shadow, Blanche. I thought you might be lonely.
Gosh, I didn't know my nerves were shot that bad.
What's the matter, Blanche? You're frightened, aren't you?
I can hear you, but I can't see anybody.
The Shadow is everywhere and nowhere.
Oh, a vaudeville actor, eh? Well, I've seen better stunts than yours in sideshows. You can't scare me.
I'm too late for that, eh, Blanche? You're already frightened. More than anyone knows.
Yeah?
There have been murders, Blanche. Your friends, Jenny Green and Freddie. You're marked to die next, Blanche Latour, and you know it.
How do you know?
The play written by Jonathan Drake. You knew Drake, didn't you?
Yeah. He talked to me often.
He told you about his play, didn't he? About 3 murders.
How did I know it was really going to happen? I was in jail. I didn't know about Jenny and Freddie.
Until tonight. You know you're next.
Can you help me? Is that why you came?
I'll help you, Blanche, if you'll help me to find the murderer.
All right. Oh, wait till I have a little drink. I'll unwrap it. Just a little drink, a little nightcap.
All right, Blanche. Tell me. Tell me the name of the murderer.
Yeah. You help me, I'll help you. What have I got to lose?
Tell me the name.
Sure. The murderer's name... The murderer's name is... Oh.
Blanche. Character number 3 has made an exit.
Well, Lamont and Margot, I imagine you'll have to admit I'm right now.
Is that why you sent for us?
Oh, really, Lamont, you can't blame him for gloating.
Have you found Drake yet?
That, Mr. Cranston, is just a matter of time.
I still say you haven't any direct evidence.
No? Wait till you see this.
It's onion skin paper. Isn't that the kind used for manuscript copy?
Yes, and a special kind Jonathan Drake always bought at the stationer's near his flat. I checked.
Where did you find that?
It was wrapped around a whiskey bottle that contained poison liquor. The liquor that killed Blanche Latour.
Well, Lamont, I guess the jig's up for poor Jonathan Drake.
I could just find him.
But the murders all follow those in the play, exactly.
Oh, forget the play for a minute, Margot. Think of the real people for a change. What one person hated all 3 of the murder victims? Jenny, Freddie, and Blanche.
Why, the Duchess. She fought with all 3.
Exactly.
Lamont, you think she did it, after all?
I don't know, Margot. But from what Blanche said, I think she knows a lot more than she's telling us.
You think she might know where Jonathan Drake is?
I can't say yet, Margot. But I'm sure she's mixed up in this some way. I think it's time the Shadow played a scene with the Duchess.
Must have a little drink. Where'd I put that bottle? Here you are. Oh, I'm thirsty. Must have a little drink. That which has made them drunk hath made me bold. There's nothing like Macbeth. I laid their daggers ready. He could not miss them. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it.
I have done the deed. Didst thou not hear a noise?
Right? Who's there?
Not your husband, Macbeth, my Duchess. It is the voice of the Shadow.
Go away, please. I'll never touch another drop.
Who killed the girl, Jenny, and Freddie, and Blanche Latour?
I don't know. Let them rest in peace. They're better off. They're all better off dead than alive.
Did you kill them, Duchess?
No. Find him. Find the man who wrote that play. Find him, and you'll find the murderer.
Do you know where he disappeared to, Duchess? Tell me. Tell me where he is, and the Shadow will let you alone.
Yes. Yes. I know.
Where is he?
Search the place where the murder's been plotted.
At the saloon?
Yes. That's the place. That's where the murderer's been all along.
Hello? Hello?
Listen, Margot.
Lamont?
I'm in a phone booth right across the street from the saloon. It's just on closing time. I want you to get Commissioner Weston and bring him down here to meet me in exactly half an hour.
What's happened, Lamont?
Don't be surprised when you see me. I've got on a disguise. I'm even changing my voice so nobody will know me.
What do you want Weston for?
I want him in half an hour to pick up our murderer.
What are you going there for?
To get Jonathan Drake. Give me another drink, Gunner. Just one more.
All right, just one more. For this time I was closing up. It's funny, you know. This place used to be filled around about this time. But it cleans out early since we've been having all that trouble.
Trouble? What trouble?
Haven't you heard? These murders. Poor devils. One after the other, those poor fools have been getting killed.
They're better off dead. Better off dead. All of them.
You feel like that too? You're a stranger around here, aren't you? Got any place to stay? Got people here?
Me? No, not me. Been traveling around, looking, searching. I don't know what for. Always end up drinking. Just passing the time, I suppose, until...
Till you hear the call.
Yes, I suppose that's it.
Yes. Most of the poor devils are better off dead.
Trouble is, we don't have the nerve.
To do it yourselves?
Yes, right. If only somebody had sense enough to do it for us.
It'd be kind of a blessing, eh?
Yeah. Yes, it'd be kind of a blessing. Well, I better be going.
Wait a minute. Here's a little present from me.
What is it? Whiskey?
This is a test transmission
Just a little bottle.
vk3sl.
Thanks.
What are you unwrapping it for?
Well, you have to have a little farewell drink with me. Right here at the bar. I'll fill your glass.
No, not for me.
Go on, Mike, drink it.
You aren't a tramp. I know you are. Here, give me that bottle.
Ah, no, Mike. That's the evidence that will convict you.
Give me that bottle. Give me that bottle.
Look after that bottle. Too late. All right, Mike. I've got you covered.
I didn't do anything, Commissioner.
We've got Jonathan Drake locked up somewhere in this building.
Yes. That's right, Commissioner. I've been holding him for you. He killed them. Jenny, Eddie, and Budge.
No, Mike, you poisoned them. Just like you tried to poison me when you found out that I was onto your little game. You poisoned them the way they were poisoned in the play, and tried to pin the blame on the author.
But why, Lamont?
To get even with Jonathan Drake for what Mike thought was making fun of him, this place and his cronies.
Make him suffer, Commissioner. Make him suffer lots before he dies.
Lamont, he's mad.
Why didn't you kill Drake, Mike, if you hated him so much, instead of killing Jenny and your other friends?
Dying for them was merciful. Like the rest I put out of the misery. A kind of blessing. They're all better off dead. Only they didn't have the courage to do it themselves. Him? He's different. A smart aleck. I want to see him suffer.
Mike did do it.
You've got no evidence. No proof.
The bottle's broken, Lamont.
Yes, Commissioner. But Mike forgot. There's a little drink I poured out for him. A nightcap, you might call it. Still standing there right on the bar where he left it. That nightcap is going to send him to the scaffold.
It's nice of you to drive me home, Jonathan. Oh, all that excitement last night. I don't know what on earth happened to Lamont. He was going to pick me up.
Oh, probably afraid he'd run into me, Margot.
But why?
You know our little bet.
And you did prove your play could happen to people in real life.
Can you picture Mr. Lamont Cranston eating his hat on our biggest thoroughfare today at high noon?
What's that mob of people doing over there across the street?
Oh, perhaps it's an accident or something. Oh, there certainly is a crowd.
John, look.
It's Lamont.
And he's
He
really...
is actually...
And it's exactly high noon.
So concludes tonight's adventure of The Shadow.
Indeed. Another Shadow episode. I think we're just going to make it before next Monday. We'll hear the rest of the series. So, yeah, very compelling. OTR with great organ flourishes abound. Well, I was just looking at the shelf and a record jumped out at me, and it happens to be Tommy Dorsey, and I think it's Soupy Tommy Dorsey. These are recordings made in the 50s. It's their Decca re-releases on Festival. So I haven't even sampled this at all. I have no idea what it's like. It'll probably be very syrupy, but that's the name of the game. We sample things and discover as we go. So let's tune in to the sounds of Mr. Dorsey and his orchestra. This is vk3sl. Test missions on 160 and streaming online. Are we ready? I think we are.
do-ah, do-do-do-ah, do-ah, do-ah, do-ah.
VK.
Glass enjoying that record, and suddenly it finished. And I keep forgetting that these 10-inch LPs have only got about half a dozen tracks or less. 4 tracks in this instance. Been listening to a 10-inch LP, released on Festival from Decca Master Pressings, and it's Tommy Dorsey and his orchestra, and we're listening to Tenderly. This came out in 1953. I just did my research on this, and it's very soupy, but delightfully soupy. It's Tommy Dorsey and a totally different guys. It's sort of his post-swing era. His last hurrah, really. He died, in 56? Poor old Tommy Dorsey choked on his own vomit. Bad night of indulgence, poor fellow. But that's, we don't want to take anything away from this very, should I say, sickly sweet album. Let's listen to the other side. This actually is side 1. We listened to side 2 before. Now, how many tracks? I'll count them. 1, 2, 3. It's only 4 tracks, so I'll try and count them as I'm sitting and listening inside. So, back on the SP10, side 2. Whoops. In the groove, this is vk3sl. Testing. And that's it for today. This is vk3sl, winding things up. At this point, we've been listening to the music of Tommy Dorsey, one of the last LPs that he made in 1953 with the doo-wop singers. I'm just guessing, I don't really know who the singers are, but it's very much in that sort of 50s, moving into the 60s. Styles changed a lot. So Dorsey, he only lived to the age of 51. I didn't realise he died so young. But he started incredibly early. He was playing professionally at the age of 15. So he goes, his recordings in the 20s are legendary. There we have it. I was listening for a short while on the BC348, which is up and running. It's sounding fantastic. Wonderful for listening to missions in the narrowband FM mode. Great for slope detecting. Nice wide IF. It's brilliant. So that's another good situation. That's all unfolding as we speak. We hopefully will have a good second mission service of one sort or another. It may be aligned for Saturday morning activities in time, but we're getting there. We're testing, and that's the name of the game. All right, let's see where our exit music is. Is it here? It certainly is. All We Like Sheep have gone astray, and my God, have we gone astray over the last few months. But we're getting back on the straight and narrow. Cheers for now.